welcome to Croft Circuit in North Yorkshire for the latest event in the 2019 calendar of the 750 Motor Club, where we've got 9 races coming up for you during the course of today. We've got Ian Soman and Andy McEwen on commentary this afternoon, and we'll have Josh Barrett as well later on in the pit lane. We're just coming to the end, actually, of the final qualifying session of the morning. That is for the 750 Formula Championship, and very shortly after that we'll get our first race of the day underway. The format of the day is that we've got a couple of races before a lunch break. The MG Car Club BCV8 Championship and the Gala Performance Toyota MR2 Championship are the races that we have coming up before lunch. Then we'll have a break for about an hour, and you can stay online on the live stream if you're watching at home. Otherwise, racing will get back underway here at the circuit at around about 5 to 2 with 7 more races coming up. So Andy McEwen with me here, as I say. Andy, a pleasure to have you here, and a pleasure as ever to be at Croft.
Indeed, thank you very much, Ian. Great to be here. Really excited to be back with the 750 Motor Club and at this live stream meeting as well. We're expecting some great racing. I've been at this equivalent meeting a few times in the past, and the racing is always exciting. Croft produces lots of close action, lots of overtaking opportunities as well. And as ever with the 750 Motor Club, really well supported championships. Big grids, lots of potential front runners across all of them, and yeah, it's going to be a great day, I think. Weather-wise, at the moment, it's dry, albeit a bit overcast and rather humid. Maybe a few spots of rain forecast for later on in the afternoon. That will further spice things up. If it stays dry, though, I think one of the real themes of the day, Ian, will be lap times. A new surface here at Croft this weekend means that already in qualifying, we are well underneath most of the lap records. That's going to be interesting to watch as the day goes on.
Absolutely right, Andy. As we see on the screen there, one of the 750 Formula Championship contenders having a few problems and has stopped out on circuit. That is the number 42 car, and that is the machine of Martin Kemp, of course, in his race kits Merlin. So Martin, his qualifying session coming to a premature end. There is only about 2 minutes left of this session, though. At present, by the way, Ollie Collett is fastest with 1:33.29 in this session, ahead of Bill Cowley, and the reigning champion Mark Glover, third fastest at the moment. And you were talking about lap record pace. Well, the lap record for this category is a 1:33.41, and the fastest lap we've had so far is Ollie Collett 1:33.29. So it's just under the lap record, but actually some of the gaps under the lap record have been a bit higher in the earlier sessions.
Yeah, the average so far today has been around 2.5 to 3 seconds, hasn't it, underneath the lap record, which is pretty much what we were expecting coming in. Of course, to be officially classified as a lap record, though, it must be set in the race conditions. So it's all well and good setting these really quick times in qualifying, but you've got to be able to do that in the race later on this afternoon to actually hold the official lap record. But yeah, that's a good indication that the lap times are coming down, and I would imagine that we will see that continue as we go into the races a bit later on. Of course, right now lap times can't improve because there are yellow flags out at the chicane. Although, in fact, I think the yellow flags have just gone in, actually, after this car that's pulled off at the side of the road. In theory, drivers, whilst the yellow flags are out, should be backing off and not going quite as quickly through that particular part of the circuit. Therefore, we shouldn't see many improvements in time. I think it's fair to say, though, Ian, that most of the improvements in this session have been made in the earlier stages when the tyres are fresher, and now as we go into, for many drivers, the final lap of the session, it's the last chance to try and improve their grid positions.
Yeah, Ollie Collett has just gone through. It's actually 1:33.14 that he's done, but that lap that he's just completed not quite as quick, and with only 20 seconds left to go, he'll be now on his final flying lap of the session. It's the Premier Choice, sorry, not Premier Choice, it's the Race Parts 750 Formula Championship. Premier Choice, but long-time sponsor of the championship, but Race Parts have been sponsoring it for the last 2 years, and we'll see these out towards the end of the afternoon. It's around about 20 past 4 for their race. Indeed, the checkered flag now does go out to bring an end to that session, and cars will come through. They will head into pit lane and park firme, and then we'll have the cars released out for our first race of the day, which is actually for the guest championship here this weekend, the MG Car Club BCV8 Championship, having rounds 4 and 5 of their championship here this weekend at Croft. Conditions here at the moment, well, overcast, I think it's fair to say at the moment. 14 degrees is the current track temperature, so you would think, unless some of this grey-looking cloud deposits its contents on the circuit, we should be in for, as you say, Andy, some quite good conditions for racing, some quite good lap times.
Yeah, what we've seen though at previous meetings this year here at Croft is that even when it's wet, the circuit is quite quick and doesn't seem to have the issue that many new surfaces have of the resins and the sort of the chemicals rising to the top of the surface when it rains. It's actually really still quite grippy. It drains well as well. So even if we do get 1 or 2 spots of rain throughout the weekend, I don't imagine that the grip levels will be affected too much. It is a tricky circuit though. It's high speed, particularly around the back, so if it does start to rain, that makes life rather tricky through particularly the high speed parts of the circuit, but the drivers, I'm sure, who have been racing here over the years have had 1 or 2 wet races at Croft. Rain is not an uncommon sight up here. It's just this new surface that throws in the unknown quantity, really.
Yeah. Well, some of the drivers that were testing yesterday here will have had experience of wet conditions. It was wet for much of yesterday's test day. It dried out a bit towards the end, so they've had experience of different conditions, and that might prove crucial and useful as the weekend wears on. Big feature of the weekend, of course, is the 3-hour Tagiwa Club Enduro race, which is our last track action tomorrow. Very full grid, more than 40 cars expected for that, so that's going to be a great highlight of the weekend, with a great variety of machinery as well we'll see out in that class, and the road sports race that we have a little bit later on, which is combined with the Gashox 116 trophy. That'll be a little bit of a taster of things to come, a 45-minute mini endurance race, which it's a nice little appetizer, isn't it, Andy, for tomorrow's main event?
Yeah, exactly, and once again, great variety and really big grid again for the Club Enduro. That's a series, so if you're sort of wanting to dip your toe into the road sport style of racing and you want to do maybe the odd round, then the road sport series may be the place to go, but then with the ever-increasing popularity of the road sports series, so came the Club Enduro, and that has just taken off more, I think, than many people expected it to. We've got enormous grids and a full 8-round championship this year, including a trip to Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium. It's great to see the 750 Motor Club once again taking a good idea and really making a success out of it.
No, absolutely. It's about, 4 or 5 years ago since it was there was a toe in the water exercise. I think it was a 90-minute race, maybe at Snetterton, a bit like just a longer road sports race, really. But then that idea gathered momentum. I think we had 3 races the year after, and then 5 the year after that, and then it's gained championship status as well for 2018 and 2019. So it's really come along, and it's been very popular indeed, and it has attracted the attention of some very experienced, very quick drivers, and some very interesting machinery as well that we'll see out with the Tagiwa Club Enduro Championship tomorrow. I see that Bill Cowley has come to a stop at the pit lane out of our commentary box window as the cars have come in from the 750 Formula Championship session. It's the first time we'll see Bill out this season in the 750 Formula Championship, so we look forward to seeing that later on. The champion a couple of years ago, of course, and the runner-up in the championship last year. So, grey skies, but dry at the moment. There's not too much breeze. Just looking at the trees there on your screen, you can't see much movement in the branches, can you? So it's a relatively still day here at Croft, so I don't think that's going to play a particular big factor in things.
What you can see from that shot is that although it's been resurfaced, this circuit, it's still quite bumpy. I did a track walk here a few weeks ago and saw that a lot of the braking zones down towards Tower, up towards Sunny as well, the bumps that were in the road before the resurface are very much still there. It's just a new surface, and they can really unsettle the cars and catch people out at some of the more high-speed parts of the circuit are the bumpiest parts of the circuit as well. One of the other factors here at Croft to consider is curb usage. We'll see particularly, I think, some of the more saloon and GT-type cars really hammering the curbs through places like Clairvaux. There again at, I think that's Sunny in, isn't it, at the far end of the circuit, for Sunny out, excuse me, where they will really use the curbs. Quite a lot of lap time to be found from using the curbs around here, but you run the risk of damaging your car. So it's still a tricky circuit despite this grippy new surface.
Absolutely right. Well, we do have cars now heading out onto the circuit for the first race of the day, and it is the MG Car Club BCV8 Championship. It's going to be round 4 of the championship, with the lead at present being held by Ollie Neves. who races this year in Class AB. Just to explain the classes in the MG Car Club BCV8 Championship. Class AB is for FIA specification cars and other near standard cars. Class B is for road modified class cars. Class C is for controlled V8s, and the full race V8 cars, so the quickest cars, are found in Class D. And they're coming round onto the grid now. So it's Ollie Neves that leads the championship. He has 40 points. Second place at the moment, 7 points behind after the first 3 rounds at Silverstone and Brands Hatch was Jim Bryan. Third place with 30 points, also another Class C driver like Jim Bryan, that's Andy Young. Fourth on 29 points, Spencer McCarthy. And fifth on 28 points, Spencer McGee. There's then a whole gaggle of drivers on joint 6th place with 27 points coming into this weekend's double header. So I say this is rounds 4 and 5 of the championship. It is a 15 round championship. So we're coming up to the 1/3 of the way mark, and you can see there the car on pole position. Well, you can't now because we've now zoomed in on the number 99 car of James Wheeler, but next to him on the grid is the pole position man, number 93, Russell McCarthy. He is the reigning champion, and the first 4 cars on the grid are all from the full race Class D. You've got on the second row of the grid the white car there, number 86, Neil Fowler, and the green car of Ian Pryor, number 91, who's yet to be off the overall podium during the course of this season. First of the Class C cars is Jordan Spencer there, the car you can see on 5th on the grid. That's car number 70, and Jordan Spencer, an overall podium for him and a Class C win for him at Silverstone. And then alongside him is the first of the Class B cars, and that's Spencer McCarthy. And Spencer has had a couple of wins in Class B already during the course of this season, although he wasn't out in Class B in the first meeting of the season at Silverstone at the end of March. And it's an intriguing factor of the BCV8 Championship that you do get some of the drivers from the lower classes in the right conditions able to mix it with some of the quicker cars.
Yeah, and you score championship points within your own class, and then whoever scores the most points within their class is the overall champion as well. So you don't necessarily have to be up at the front fighting for overall race victories to be a championship contender. Indeed, whilst Ollie Neves in the Class AB car is your championship leader, well, of course, the AB cars are much further towards the back of the grid. Usually, Jim Bryan second overall and Ian Pryor third. Their classes C and D overall. So the cars that are right at the sharp end, which generally speaking tend to be the Class D machines, are not necessarily the ones that come the end of the season will be debating the championship.
No, absolutely right. And we've got a very good field of 22 cars making the trip to North Yorkshire this weekend. Not quite as many as we've had for the first couple of meetings, but still a very healthy field nevertheless as we go on to this fourth round of the BCV8 Championship. So let's think about taking a look at the grid then. And here we are then. It is Russell McCarthy on pole position. That is the number 93 car. James Wheeler, number 99, is alongside him. Neil Fowler and Ian Pryor, row 2. Then Jordan Spencer, the first of the Class C cars, and Spencer McCarthy, the first of the Class B cars, make up row 3. Jim Bryan and Johnny Wheeler are on the 4th row of the grid. On row 5, it's going to be Oliver Wardle and James Darby. Steve Wells, he's had a good season so far, and Steve McKee make up row 6 of the grid. Chris Greenwood and Russell McAngus, row number 7. David Strike and Paul Linfield are on row 8. Further back onto the 9th row, it's Howard Grundon and Max Cawthorne. Ronald Watt, he's been a long-time campaigner in this championship, and Daniel Nicholson, row 10. And John Reggett, who we also see out in the Cockpit Cup from time to time, and Stuart Balfour completes the 22-car field.
Yeah, Stuart Balfour is an interesting one there from the back of the grid. He's some way off the general Class C pace. I wonder whether he had some issues in qualifying, and the number 63 car could be one to watch making progress from the back of the grid. these may not be the most modern machines that you'll see racing here today, but they get raced hard, don't they? The MG Car Club BCV8 Championship races are very entertaining. Lots of respect, though, shown between all of the drivers. So whilst it is close and whilst it is fierce competition, contact is very rare. Next to very, very rare indeed that you see any contact between the cars, and that respect the drivers have for each other allows them to really race each other door to door. So yeah, we're in for an entertaining race here, I think, as the cars now start to line up on the grid, with Russell McCarthy on pole position, a full second though quicker than James Wheeler in qualifying. Qualifying's one thing though, can he maintain that pace now throughout the race?
Well, absolutely right, and the drivers will of course have been trying to get to grips with literally the new track surface here in qualifying, and I suspect not many of them will have tested yesterday, so we shall see how things fare. It's worth mentioning James Darby, number 38, who starts 10th on the grid. He's the only invitation class driver this weekend. I think the class that's got the most support numerically this weekend is Class AB. I think there are 7 different drivers within that class. Russell McCangus is the first of those on the outside of row 7 of the grid, and we'll certainly do our level best to keep an eye on what's going on within the respective classes, as well as on the overall finishing positions. So on the camera shot you can see there, it is Russell McCarthy, the pale yellow car, on pole position. It's the darker yellow car of James Wheeler next to him. James Wheeler, who won the last round of the championship at Brands Hatch. Rob Spencer and Neil Fowler having won the first 2. And then it's Neil Fowler and Ian Pryor on the second row of the grid. So the red lights go on, and away they go, and it's a good start from the outside of the front row there by James Wheeler. There's one that's a little bit slow away towards the back. That might have been Chris Greenwood, and there's one car there with a big problem, smoke pouring off the back of it, and that's immediately going to pull off onto the left-hand side of the circuit, and that is the number 61 car. That's Johnny Wheeler, already out of the race with his door open.
Not an ideal start. Let's hope he's not left any fluid on the circuit from that. At least it's in a straight line, I suppose. But anyway, race leader is definitely James Wheeler as he comes out of the chicane, and the pole's here to Russell McCarthy. The paler yellow car there is down to 4th position. He's diving up the inside now of Neil Fowler down towards Tower Corner, and might be about to move back into a podium position. Not a great start though for McCarthy. He bogged down off the line, and then I think maybe got on the wrong line through Clairvaux and Hawthorn, and indeed he was not able to get back into 3rd place. So already the man who was a second quicker than anyone else in qualifying has a bit of work to do here.
He certainly does, but he's often the way with Russell McCarthy in that he doesn't always get away that well, and almost seems to relish the challenge of trying to fight his way back through the field. Certainly that seems to be the case last time out at Snetterton at the end of last season. This is a good battle going on a little bit further back. That's the battle between Spencer McCarthy, and it's the Dayglow car of Spencer that's just got through, number 40, ahead of Jordan Spencer. So the Class B car getting ahead of the Class C car. That's not necessarily what you'd expect to happen.
No, it was a close run thing though through Barcroft, which is not an easy part of the circuit to run side by side through. They avoided contact, but Jim Bryan had to put 2 wheels onto the grass, which I'm sure caught his attention through to the completion of the opening lap then. And it's all really about this fight for second place, isn't it? Because James Wheeler is pulling clear here at the head of the field. The fight for second though could not be much closer. Ian Pryor has it, but then Neil Fowler and James Wheeler, and Russell McCarthy, excuse me, both want it. That is the order in which they will cross the line, but up the inside towards Clairvaux is going the pole sitter McCarthy. He is now into 3rd position, and the fight back has begun.
Yeah, and he used a bit of curb there, didn't he, through Hawthorns. They're heading now to the chicane for the second time in this race, which is over a 15-minute duration. Already, though, Russell McCarthy will have quite a lot of work to do. As you can see there, James Wheeler well out in front by more than 2 seconds as they head down towards Tower Corner for the second time. There's a good illustration of that gap. It's Ian Pryor, who's not been off the podium so far this season, in second place, and then in 3rd. Oh, what a big moment there for Neil Fowler, who's just been passed by Russell McCarthy, and he's just about got it gathered back up, but on the exit of Tower, it was a big moment for Neil Fowler, and he's dropped back a little bit because of that.
Yeah, Jordan Spencer, the Class C leader, gains another place out of that, so he's into the top 4 outright. There is McCarthy, the white car. No damage. I don't think he made contact with anything solid there, but that goes to show the amount of power that these V8 engine cars that run in Class D have, and maybe with slightly cold rear tyres still, he lit the rear tyres up and very nearly found himself off the road.
Oh, and Russell McCarthy there really challenging Ian Pryor down into the complex for the second time, and it didn't come to anything there. There's a bit of smoke. It was almost close to contact, wasn't it, from the look of our camera shot here. But they're turning their way through the left-handed hairpin now to complete another lap. Now can Russell McCarthy pick up the toe here down this long start and finish straight? There is the slippery surface flag out that they're just driving past now, and that presumably is because there is some fuel having dropped by Johnny Wheeler with his problem coming off the grid there. But yeah, down the straight, Russell McCarthy not really able to make any progress on Ian Pryor, but there's still another 9.5 minutes left to go.
And he seems a bit quicker through the technical sections, so he closes in again, going towards the chicane. A good exit from here can possibly set up a move into Tower, and this time around in the toe, he's managing to stay with Pryor. Looks to the inside line, he's going for second place. That's that bump I was on about, under braking for Tower, which really unsettles the rear of the car, and I think that actually meant that McCarthy had to abort that particular overtaking attempt for fear of making contact with Pryor.
Neil Fowler, you just saw there going through shot, has just got back ahead of Jordan Spencer now for 4th position, so having made that mistake, the Class D driver has got back through up into P4.
Yep, the rest of the field coming through there. There's some of the Class C cars. As for second position, Russell McCarthy at Barcroft goes up the inside of Ian Pryor. I made the point on the opening lap that it's difficult to run side by side through that part of the circuit, but that's that respect I was talking about between the drivers. Pryor realised McCarthy had a run. He was up the inside. There's no point in fighting it to the death. He just moved aside essentially and allowed McCarthy through. Into second place then goes McCarthy, but he's going to be about 3.5 seconds at least behind the race leader James Wheeler, who I made the point earlier, he was a second lap quicker than potentially in qualifying, so he's going to have to try and pull out some of those qualifying laps now in order to challenge for the race lead.
Absolutely right. So already though he has put a bit of daylight between himself and Ian Pryor. The gap is 3.4 seconds between first and second at the end of 3 laps. Just as far as the classes are concerned, it is Jordan Spencer leading Class C, Spencer McCarthy number 40 leading Class B, and Russell McCangus number 17 still leading Class AB, and he's got the car of Howard Grundon between himself and his next competitor, which is Paul Linfield in the number 14 car. Yeah,
some of the closest battles are the ones for podium places in Class AB. There you can see Paul Linfield 14th overall and Max Cawthorne 15th there, nose to tail. Sideways moment there for, was that Spencer? I think it was, wasn't it, going through the chicane. Did well to gather that together. The circuit may have lots of grip with this new surface that's been laid over the winter, but it's still possible, clearly, to be a little bit over-adventurous with the accelerator and have a few tail-happy moments. Out towards the far end of the circuit then go the race leaders. We're seeing some of these midfield battles and more sideways moments out of the chicane as well. And somewhere in amongst all of this will be that second place battle for Class AB honours with Paul Linfield and Max Cawthorne. In fact, McCangus has lost the place, hasn't he, to Howard Grundon?
He has now. Meanwhile, the race leaders are back into the complex and can see that it's much closer between those two. But there now you can see the 48 car of Howard Grundon, so he has got ahead of McCangus, and that means that he's now got, is that Paul Linfield right behind him as well. So the battle for Class AB is now joined. In fact, it's a 3-car battle for Class AB that is going on there just behind the Class B car, which is that of Howard Grundon. So great racing going on for the class. Yeah, so that loss of position for McCangus overall to Howard Grundon, whilst it wasn't for the class lead, it's delayed them both, I think, hasn't it, and allowed Linfield and Cawthorne to close in. It looks as though Max was attacking Paul Linfield then for second place in the class into Sonny. Did he make it stick? Side by side again on the exit, and he's, I think, fully alongside this time. No, not quite. So the red car of Max Cawthorne, car number 23, still third place in the class, and despite another attempt up the inside into the complex, he's not quite able to get through. No, and we're going to get another challenge here, are we? It's very tight indeed. We've got a spinner as well coming out of the chicane. It's Jordan Spencer, so our Class C leader has a moment. He's now passed by the Class B leader, which is Spencer McCarthy. There he goes through. But so no real loss there for Jordan Spencer because he got such a big lead over Jim Bryan, who was second place within Class C.
Yep, Howard Grundon here then, still defending from Russell McCangus. This, as we said, is not for a battle between 2 cars in the same class, but McCangus wants to get on with this because the rest of the Class AB cars are not that far behind him. Russell McCangus has had a couple of podiums in class this season, but not yet won an AB class race. He is in the race lead now, though, and does not want to lose it.
Meanwhile, the overall race leaders, who I can see from our commentary box window, are getting much, much closer to one another now. There was a shade under 2 seconds between them at the end of the 4th lap. They're coming through to complete lap 5, and Russell McCarthy almost now within striking distance of the race leader, as you can see, coming down the start-to-finish straight, past the pits and into Clairvaux for the 6th time. 5 minutes of this race left to go. The gap is about 4 seconds. So over the course of the last 2 laps, Russell McCarthy has taken basically 3 seconds out of the race leader. So that is some going, Andy.
Catching is one thing, though, and passing is another. And we've seen that Russell's had difficulty earlier on in this race in overhauling people that, in theory, he was quite a bit quicker than. Gets a good exit from the chicane, but he's not going to be close enough into Tower on this occasion, I don't think. Let's see. He's later on the brakes, though. You can see the car squirming around in that bumpy braking zone, and it's through the second half of the lap that he gained much of that time on the previous occasion. So let's see. He was 0.8 of a second behind at the line. He's now about a car length or so back as they go through the Jim Clark S's. But really, in theory, it's single file through this part of the circuit, isn't it?
It is, in theory. In practice, I have seen moves made, but not very often. Not in evenly matched machinery, but a mistake there, certainly by the race leader, James Wheeler. Went very wide through the first part of Sunny, and that has meant that Russell McCarthy has got another length or two closer to him as they come down this short straight in towards the complex. This is lap 6 of the race, and they're basically nose to tail now as they come into this very tricky section of circuit, left, right, and then this very tight left-hand hairpin to end the lap scene of many an incident down the years. As they turn their way through, it is now basically 1 car length between them, but there's a spinner just in front of them. That's the number 63 car of Stuart Balfour, who was the man that started right at the back of the grid.
Yeah, just as you said, it's the scene of many an incident. He looped the car on the exit of the hairpin, thankfully didn't hit anything and got out of the way before the leaders arrived. That little mistake that we saw for James Wheeler down at Sunny, that will tell Russell McCarthy that the pressure he's starting to apply is starting to work. If Wheeler makes another mistake, McCarthy now looks like he's close enough to take advantage of it. Back through the chicane they're about to go. Ian Pryor is now some 11 seconds behind these two, but still 3rd place in the race and 3rd place in class, but being caught now by Neil Fowler. So whilst these two are debating the race lead, there is a good battle developing for 3rd place as well. Focus on the leaders for now, though, as they come through Tower Corner, and McCarthy looking for a better exit here, if at all possible, to challenge through the second half of the lap.
Yes, will he be able to do it, though? There's probably going to be 2 more laps to go at the end of this one. Back to this battle, though, and a change for position, but not for the class lead, because Russell McCangas again gets the 48 car of Howard Grundon between himself and the next car, which again is Paul Linfield by the looks of it. David Strike was ahead as they came across the line that time, but seems to have dropped back again. So it's now number 17, Russell McCangas ahead. It looks like Paul Linfield has made it through past Grundon as well that time, so he will try and just get on with the task of challenging the class leader without worrying too much about what Grundon's doing behind him.
Before too much longer as well, the overall race leaders are going to catch this group to put a lap on them, which could be interesting.
But slowing there is the number 14 car, and he has got his indicator on, so that's going to allow, well, I thought it was going to allow Grundon back through on the inside down into Clairvaux. So I think the indicator being on was a mistake, and I think it was just coincidence that he looked a little bit slower over the line. But for the lead, it's side by side now as they head down towards Clairvaux Corner. I can see it's Russell McCarthy on the outside line, trying to drive around the outside of the number 99 car of James Wheeler, and he's still not quite been able to do it. We've got 1 minute 44 seconds on the clock, so we should just get 2 more laps out of this.
I think there was a back marker involved there as they went through the hairpin that delayed James Wheeler's momentum onto the pit straight. That slide at the chicane will delay his momentum onto the back straight as well. They dive up the inside of another slower runner, but that car stays well out of the way, and Russell McCarthy, try as he might, still can't get to the inside line. If James Wheeler doesn't give him the inside for any of these corners, it's going to be difficult for McCarthy to get through, despite the fact he is evidently quicker. This may well come down to traffic, though. The next knot of back markers they're going to catch will be that Class AB battle, so we've seen how closely packed they are. They're focusing on their own race, and before too much longer, the race leaders will be trying to put a lap on them.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to get very messy on this last lap of the race, isn't it? Probably at the most inopportune moment possible. So the leaders just making their way out of Sunny, and they can see now this gaggle of cars, 5 of them, I think, disputing mostly the Class AB lead. Howard Grundon still the 3rd car in that chain. He's the odd one out, but they're now going to get to the first of those cars, which looks like the number 23 car of Max Cawthorne, and it looks like that James Wheeler can get 1 car between. No, I can't. I thought he was going to get a car between them as they came off the hairpin. I think that's worked out pretty even Stevens, hasn't it, Andy?
Did you see the front left wheels pouring the air there? Such is the power and the soft rear suspension on these cars. It was almost pulling a wheelie. All three abreast into the first corner there as Paul Linfield went up the inside of Howard Grundon again, or was possibly defending from Grundon as the leaders came through. And if anything, this is really going to hurt Russell McCarthy. No, they both have to run wide through Hawthorne, but the number 14 car of Paul Linfield, second place in Class AB, settles in between them through the chicane. So in the end, a small advantage there, I think, for Wheeler.
I think so. It's also worked out quite well for Russell McCangas in the Class AB battle, because he seems to have made just a little bit of an escape as well, although having said that, as they turn their way through... Oh, another spin, by the way, at the hairpin for number 63, Steve Balfour. He's done that again, but that's a little bit further in front of the leaders this time. But for the lead then, as they head through the Jim Clark S's for the final time then, and up towards Barcroft and Sunny, there's about 4 lengths between them. I don't think Russell McCarthy's going to be able to do this.
No, I'm not convinced he is either. He really was cost his best opportunity maybe to challenge for the lead by those back markers. They're having their own race though, and as we saw, it affects their race as well as it affects the race leaders. And McCarthy is now, I think, a bit frustrated by that situation. Runs a bit wide out of Sunny. Still, though, seems to make gains under braking, and they're both out of shape as they come into the complex this time. Russell McCarthy and James Wheeler both really pushing for this.
Yeah, absolutely, and well underneath the lap record as well. Another spinner, that is the number 14 car. So Paul Linfield, who was second within that class, but the leaders coming up to the line. Oh, now they're getting the last lap board this time, in actual fact. So last lap board goes out this time, and it is still Russell McCarthy challenging James Wheeler, closer than ever, and they might just catch some back markers towards the end of the lap here, so it could still have a bearing on the way this race ends. Yeah,
13 minutes plus 1 lap this race, so they've had the 13 minutes, and now the last lap is tagged on to the end, and this gives Russell McCarthy one more shot at this. He's very close, only a couple of car lengths behind as they go down the back straight. He's inching closer as well in a straight line, and we know that he's good on the brakes, so too does James Wheeler, who goes to the inside and locks up. Will that hurt his exit speed? You'd have to imagine it might do, and Russell McCarthy still can't quite get alongside, but that was another mistake under braking for James Wheeler. Not the first time we've seen that, Ian.
No, and we're heading towards the scene of a mistake earlier in the race up at Sunny Inn, where he went quite wide. He goes through Barcroft this time, they're very fast right-hander. Now they brake for Sunny, a slower right-hander, a much better line for him that time. So Russell McCarthy is now running out of options. There are still opportunities, though, as he comes into the final few corners. I don't think the back markers, well, the one back marker will come into play slightly, but it keeps well out of the way. So really, it's down towards the hairpin for the final time. I don't think Russell McCarthy is going to be close enough to make this work, though. Into this left-hander they go, both of them onto the brakes now, very much single file through the corner. No sign earlier on in the race of Russell McCarthy getting a better exit from the hairpin, so up to the line they come, and it's going to be a second successive win in the MG Car Club BCV8 Championship for James Wheeler. So Wheeler it is that takes the win in the end by 0.38 seconds from Russell McCarthy. Now for third and fourth place, that's what we need to look out for as well. And yes, Ian Pryor, who's coming up to the line, is just about going to keep his 100% podium record, but only by a matter of about a car length from Ian Pryor in the end. So that's your top 4 in Class D as well: Wheeler, McCarthy, Pryor and Fowler. And then it's going to be quite a long gap back to the rest of the cars. But the Class AB battle has come through. That has been won by Russell McCangas, number 17, a lap down, of course. And then David Strike it was that made it up to second with that moment for Paul Linfield a short while ago. And Max Cawthorne, the third of the cars within Class AB. And over the line now there, you can see goes number 70. That's Jordan Spencer. He is our Class C winner this weekend, well ahead of Jim Bryan, and our Class B winner over the line is number 40 Spencer McCarthy, brother of Russell, who was denied the race victory by just under 0.4 of a second. So drivers with hands out the window, doors open in fact, to wave to show their appreciation to the marshals on the slowing down lap. But it is James Wheeler then who, coming into this weekend, was had some setbacks in earlier races, so he was at the bottom of the Class D points table, but another win this weekend will have done him no harm at all.
Yeah, the first double winner this year as well, both outright and in Class D. Rob Spencer Neil Fowler and James himself had a win apiece coming into this race. James the first two-time winner. Spencer McCarthy, meanwhile, that's his third Class B win. So we're seeing in some classes maybe a little more competition than others. Confirmation of the result there then, just under 0.4 of a second in the end in it between James Wheeler and Russell McCarthy. Ian Pryor was third, Neil Fowler fourth, and again that was close, only a couple of tenths between those two at the line, and that continued battle, but Neil Fowler will be kicking himself no doubt after that spin at the chicane. Jordan Spencer was next and took the victory in Class C, and there you can see the Class AB runners, Russell McAngus there, the number 17 car, winning Class AB, and as you said, Ian, really benefited in a way from the leaders coming through to put a lap on them. That allowed him to build a gap over the rest of the AB cars.
Yeah, absolutely. David Strike and Max Cawthorne completing the top three as far as Class AB was concerned. And there are a couple of retirements, of course, on the first lap. Johnny Wheeler and Steve Wells. But the drivers now heading into the pit lane. They've got another race later on during the day, of course. But it is James Wheeler, the son of Johnny, that's headed into the pit lane victorious, with Russell McCarthy just behind him. Mind your door there, James. Don't want to get that knocked off in the pit lane. James clambering out, puffs the cheeks out. That's hard work. He knows about it. Gets the winner's garland from James Winstanley. So let's now hear from our race winner.
We've got our race winner down here. Well done, James. It was a close battle for the win, though.
That was proper hard work. Yeah, halfway through the race, the clutch started to go. I was really struggling to get it into gear. And yeah, I just saw Russell hounding me down, but had to play the real defensive game for the last half of the what amazing race. Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, lots of traffic as well to get through.
Yeah, got a bit closer points, and obviously they're having their race as well. And the races throughout the field looked immense as usual with the BCV8. Yeah, it got a bit close at some points, but we had fun and we kept it clean and loved it.
Of course, the championships came on a lot in the last few years, and you've helped to promote it.
Yeah, so I've been spending a bit of time getting the championship to where it is now. It's always been a championship that's been great for MGBs, MGCs and MGBV8s, and it's just growing every time we go out. This is our smallest grid of the year so far, and it's still not too bad, but we're getting 30s, 29, 30s out on the grid each time, so it's brilliant.
Well done and good luck for later on.
Cheers.
Great to see the BCV8s here. The Class C winner was Jordan Spencer. Jordan, well done. I think you had a bit of a spin out there, though.
Little one, yeah, it was quite exciting. It was an interesting race. I had Russell behind me after I spun, and Spencer. Yeah, found it really interesting, really difficult, bouncing all over the place. I decided to lose my exhaust as well, so everyone out enjoyed the sound of the V8.
Croft circuit, what's that like in these cars?
Difficult. Yeah, you're just fighting the wheel constantly from start to finish. Yeah, good fun. Yeah.
And now another race. Anything to change on the car for that one?
Put the exhaust back on. That's about it, really, other than fuel up, sort the tyre pressures out and go back out.
Of course, your family as well been a big part of this championship, yeah. So you must be really pleased as well to have lots of competition out there to race.
Yeah. I mean, there's competition all the way through the field, from D class, C class, A, B class. It's really good fun racing. Yeah.
Well done.
Thank you very much.
Class B winner was Spencer. You with all the higher class cars as well. So how was that with less power?
Yeah, obviously a struggle. I mean, the car's got a good advantage around the quick corners. It's got a lot of momentum. The V8s do struggle a little bit because they're a bit heavier. So really my tactic is really just to try and get the gaps where I need to get the speed through. So yeah, obviously Jordan spun it at one point. And I thought, well, our times aren't that different. Let's see if I can sort of hold it. But yeah, the hairpin's just that sort of dead stop and pull away, and the V8s have really got the advantage there. So yeah, no, we did all right. Yeah, sort of, was it 5th overall, 6th overall, something like that. So that's pretty good B-class car. So yeah, we did all right. Yeah.
You've raced a lot of different types of MGB. How's this sort of in the middle, I guess, the power of this one?
Yeah, well, I started out in this championship back in 97, I think, 96, and yeah, in the standard class, back then A class, and then progressed up a bit. So B class is it's just such a fun formula. It's just that nice power to weight ratio where you can really drift the car around. And I've tried the D class cars as well. I've got one back at home, which is my dad's old one. Yeah, great fun, but a different kind of ball game. It does some Genettas and stuff as well, and some classic Clubmans as well, which is again all sorts of different stuff. But yeah, no, it's good to be back in the MGs.
Well done on the class win. And our Class AB winner was Russell McAngus. Russell, there was a great battle in Class AB. How was that?
Yeah, it was getting very close, wasn't it? A few tight ones. We had the one holding us all up, bunching us all up together, and Yeah, it's getting a bit airy and a bit worrying, but we got back past him and managed to leave him again.
And then, of course, you had I think you had the faster cars lapping you as well.
Yeah.
So how was that? How you position your car for that sort of thing?
Well, you can see them coming. You've just got to move over sensibly, haven't you? And then hopefully that you don't leave enough gap for the ABs who were catching. So we see them coming. Just move over, make it fair for a minute.
And this circuit, it's been resurfaced. I don't know if you've raced here before. What's the changes?
It's the first time I've ever raced here. I think it's a brilliant track. Absolutely brilliant track. Brilliant.
Good grip levels now?
Yeah, it was, but now this is going to start. It'll be totally different. So, yeah, no, it was good. Good.
Well done on your class win.
Thank you very much.
There's spots of rain coming down here at Croft to head into our next race, but the winners we just spoke to there, James Wheeler, the winner of the BCV8 Championship, the class winners, Jordan Spencer, Spencer McCarthy and Russell McAngus.